Hey everybody, Happy New Year. It is New Year's Eve right here at the moment, and something has been hitting my brain all day, and I decided it's going to be my New Year's resolution. So here it is. And this is directed at me. I'm not suggesting anybody else ought to do this. Be love. Just be love. All love is of God. Be the love that is in you. Be sweet. All sweetness is God's sweetness. Be the sweetness that is in you. Just be sweet. Love God. God is that love that is in you. Love that love. Then you love Him. Love of God is love of all people. Just be that love, Hillary. So these are the kinds of things hitting my brain today again and again. And what they mean to me is to do what's actually sweet, which is to begin to really share my incredible life. My life is different than any life that I've ever read of. And so you haven't heard it. Nobody's heard it, except a few of my friends have heard some of it. But I'm going to be sharing things I have not shared yet with anyone in completeness. I'll be sharing in completeness. To begin, I started to share on Christmas, and that sharing is a general idea. Imagine God having all God's knowledge. Some would say infinite. Imagine all of God's knowledge as this giant circle. And then I like to imagine my own knowledge as the tiniest little atom at the edge of the outline of the circle. Now, that atom does not know the truth of things. God's circle is the truth of things. That knowledge is the truth of things. And so for me to begin to resonate with the truth, which is only God's truth, of course, means that I recognize, change my mind, change my thinking actively so that, and this is something I continue to do and will continue to do. I won't end doing this because God's knowledge is so much more than mine. So I changed my thinking to begin with the idea that none of my ideas is actually true. None hold up to what God's truths are, whatever they are, and I don't know what they are. And as I do this more and more, then more and more resonance happens between my mind and God's knowledge. And so God's knowledge starts to come. Now, that doesn't mean that what comes through my brain or mind is true. What it does suggest to me is that it's really helpful. And in fact, it has been super helpful. And so I'm going to be sharing what's super helpful as a result of doing the humility experiment that I talked about in the previous video. The humility experiment is just the process of elevating love actively so that actions of love coming from feelings of love are happening as often as possible so that they can even become continuous. And feelings of love then are above any kind of idea that might be in my little head. My little head does not know what's true. The more I think in those terms, the more that I allow my mind to think in those terms, the more that God's love can actually come out like a fountain. It is like a fountain. It's like a dam broke at one point. This huge fountain of love started pouring out. And it's amazing. It's a miracle beyond all miracles that I know that this kind of thing can happen. The love that I felt, the strongest love I felt is so little compared to the love that is pouring from God constantly through all of us, though words get in the way. Our words that are our truths, even our meanings we consider to be true, like this notebook, like the light that is shining in the room as the sun is setting right now. Each thing that I may name is not how God named them. God's truth is so powerful that by naming, things came into existence. Now, our term name, actually coming from the Hebrew a very long time ago, meant the character of something. The character of something. So when God spoke forth, then it was God's character becoming, in a sense, physicalized, becoming physically manifest. Those are things that have come to me. I'm not saying these are the truth. The truth is God's truth, and I do not know God's truth. I only see what actually helps. And what helps is to belittle my sense of Hillary truths. Belittle my truths more and more and more so that I see that they are so tiny, tiny, tiny until poof, they vanish. And I don't experience myself as knowing anything. I wouldn't say that I have come anywhere close to having humility compared to the humility that would be deserved in relation to God. But I work on it, and I hope you work on it. But you don't need to work on it. It's all a choice. God gives us free will for very good reasons, and those reasons have been coming to me powerfully in the last year and a half in particular. So, my New Year's resolution is to be sweet, is to be love, and to continue to pursue humility with everything I have, which means to question every single idea, even if it seems to come from God. I'm questioning every idea and, in effect, clearing away my mind so that more resonant ideas can come from God. And then rethinking those, questioning those, finding gaps in those thoughts, finding inaccuracies that may be there, seeing how they may not be true after all, and then cast those away so that more resonant ideas can come. And so by repeating this process again and again and again, then a clearing keeps happening, not one that happens and it's done, because then I would be claiming some kind of perfection of mind, and my mind ain't anywhere close to perfect. If God is pure, pure light, then my little grains of thought are very muddy. They're not anything like the clarity of God's thought, but they're not as muddy as they once were. For once upon a time, I did not even think that God existed, for example. I hope you have an absolutely spectacular next year and each year thereafter. Love is actually what binds us. We are actually bound by love to God in all moments. If we were not, we would not exist. So, have a lovely day, have a lovely year, and I will talk with you very soon.